Hi, this is Jennifer McKenzie, and I'm just going to give you an overview of the Teaching Writing Using Technology class lesson or session one. Um, and I'll show you where some resources are and what's all embedded within the lesson plans that were sent to everybody. So our very first session, we talked about kind of just some basic fundamentals of proficiency grading, and then as well as formative feedback and involving students in the assessment process. And once we all kind of get grounded in that, we're beginning to layer technology on top of what we're already doing, just to work smarter, not harder. So the very first session, we talked about this thing called the read, speak, write cycle and why that's successful. We talked about this technique of pod grading, which is really just involving students in the assessment process. And then towards the end of the session, we looked at some quick and easy ways to give physical formative feedback, as well as beginning to use Google Apps to do digital formative feedback. So anytime you're looking through the lesson slides and you see a blue thing that's underlined, it's really a hyperlink to take you to a video. And there are quite a few videos embedded within the slides that you can watch at your on your own time. So we began class by just talking about the format and class norms. One thing that's really important when you're working with technology is just realizing we are one team, and we learn together. So just keeping that in mind. We did a really fun frisbee warm-up where we all shared what type of technology we use to write our senior research papers, and many of us actually typed them on typewriters, which was really interesting. And that kind of led us to this discussion of these current terms, digital native versus a digital immigrant. And a digital native is someone who was born after 1980, and they have known life with technology. So they're into social networking. They've always used technology. When they began school, they used computers. Versus a digital immigrant, that's a person who grew up in an analog world. And so they may be uncomfortable with some technology, especially newer technology. Most of the teachers in our school district fall in this in-between category. We're digital settlers. We didn't necessarily grow up with it, but we're learning how to use technology. And one of the big takeaways from these terms is just that we need each other. So our digital natives need to link up with our digital settlers or immigrants and work together. Our digital natives, the technology is a bit more intuitive, but our digital settlers and immigrants, these are like our veteran teachers who have all of the years of experience and pedagogy under their belts. So we just really need each other. Learning technology is like learning a language. And if you want to check out research on those terms, you can click on the link and go to this article. And Anna also sent everybody this folder full of resources. Everything that we're using in this class, we're dumping in this folder, so you can find all resources here. One of the reasons why, the reason why we came up with this class in the first place is that in our district, our writing OAK scores typically tend to be our lowest scores. And using technology in the classroom isn't replacing what we've been doing. We are enhancing our instruction. And so leaders in education technology will often tell you that you should be focusing technology when you can actually get your hands on it. You should be focusing it on the areas that you need to improve. So we're focusing on writing. All right, then we moved into talking about formative assessment, and I won't read this entire slide to you, but all of the resources that our district have used in the past couple of years speak to how important formative assessment is. And I'll just share this one quote with you. Formative assessment can be 10 times as cost effective as reducing class size, would add 6 to 9 months of additional learning growth per year, and students would learn 4 times as fast, just if you're constantly, daily doing formative checks in the classroom. So that's why they're so important. Then we talked about this book Focus, published by Mike Schmoker, and this whole thing that's kind of been known as the read, speak, write cycle. And it's just really a cycle where you can get the most bang for your buck, and you begin with involving students in the assessment process by whatever product it is that you want your students to produce. First, show them examples and score it with a rubric together so everyone is 100% clear on what's expected of them. Then you go through the read, speak, write process where you're closely annotating texts. You're then using formal discussion or Socratic seminar to ensure that students understand the text. And then you have them turn around and write. And then at the very end, you actually involve students in the assessment process again by having them help score what you just asked them to write. So we actually gave this read, speak, write process. We tried it out, a little mini version of it. So we all closely read an article by Schmoker. We then turned around and did a really mini version of Socratic seminar. And in the slides here, I actually have two really great examples of Martha doing Socratic seminar with her freshmen, and then Camille doing Socratic seminar with her AP Lit seniors. So it's really cool to watch both videos and kind of compare and contrast how each teacher handles formal discussion or Socratic seminar. So we practiced a version of this. And then we did a 1-paragraph sticky note timed right at the very end. I shared with the group before we got into Socratic seminar to discuss our article. I just shared how I do fishbowl style with my freshmen, and that's what it looks like. We always review the rubric first so everyone knows how they're going to be scored. This is another sample that we use with our freshmen. And then we actually practice trying it out. And when I do Socratic seminar, I like to use my document camera and actually track their conversation. I find that showing students visually how they're doing throughout the conversation ensures that everybody meets proficiency and that everybody contributes equally, which is really cool. And then I'll usually have my little online stopwatch up in the corner here too. So that's just how I handle Socratic seminar. We practice doing it that way. Here's a slide that just shows with my freshmen, we actually analyze one conversation to the next so that we're continually getting better at our seminars, more collegial with our seminars, more balanced with our discussions, etc. Okay, and then participants in the class answered this question: what did you learn about the read, speak, write process? And we did a little sticky note formative feedback, which is kind of like involving students or participants in the assessment process. I asked everyone to assess their own knowledge of what we just did. I showed everyone just a sample planner, how I ensure that I'm continually including the read, speak, write process in my lesson plans, whether it's all within one lesson or spaced throughout several lessons, just making sure that I'm having students constantly read and closely annotate, speak about what they just read, and then turn around and write it. And I've just found that when you ask students to speak about what they're learning, you just see it translate into their writing. Okay, then we came back and we talked about this thing called pod grading. It is a way to involve students in the assessment process. I began this about 5 years ago here at South Medford High School. This document is in the folder that we shared with everyone in a pod grading folder. And it just shows like how I used to grade student essays versus how I grade them now. And I honestly feel like students are getting triple the amount of feedback that I used to give them in a way more shortened period of time. I'm just able to turn around essays way more, students just get their feedback quicker than they used to. So there's a little video that I made a couple of years ago. You can click on this and follow the link, and it shows the entire process. I show students going through the pod grading process, and then I show what I do with those papers when we're done with the process, and then also how I use turnitin.com to provide verbal feedback. So you can go ahead and watch that video. We actually had a stack of student sample essays, and so we practiced pod grading mainly just to get the feel of it, to see how essays rotate around the room. So most essays are scored for 6 traits. So the essays just rotate around per pod and get scored for that trait, and we do 6 rotations. And then by the end of the pod grade session, every essay has been completely scored by peers in class. Here's a slide about the steps or the rules of the pod grade process, and these are again in the shared folder. We talked a little bit about giving good feedback, and teaching students to give effective feedback is honestly a year-long process. We use star and wish language every single day in class. We write kind notes to each other, giving each other specific feedback. And every time we write an essay, I'll take pictures of the feedback that students have given to show the next class period. And we're just continually refining how we give feedback. At the very end of a pod grading session, we track what we did well, what we need to improve, and then we use this data for the next essay that we write. We look at the areas that we need to improve, and then work on improving those areas. So at the very end of the class, we actually checked out this really cool video of Kaylin using little popsicle sticks for quick and easy formative feedback. So you should check that video out. It was awesome. And then we moved to the computer lab to take a survey using Google Forms. And there's a slide about Kaylin's popsicle stick feedback. Participants actually practiced doing it. And then after we took our survey, class was done, and the homework was to try the read, speak, write process out, to try involving students in the assessment process, and then to bring in assignments that you want to turn into a Google form to the next class. And then we'll do a quick share out before we begin session 2. So that